Hey guys, welcome to Cobb Hill Farms. Today's video, we're going to work on this 268 New Holland square baler. I got a few maintenance items to get wrapped up on it. Hopefully we'll be able to do some second cutting hay. First part of September, it's awful late for second cutting hay, but you know, the summer we've had, as I've talked about in previous videos, it is what it is. The next week or so, it's kind of hit and miss whether we'll actually be able to get some hay made or not, but I don't know, this stuff needs to get fixed anyways, so let's just get it done. Late last summer, when I was putting the square baler away in the barn for the winter, the darndest thing happened. The top part of the hitch broke off, and this has been buggered up and welded before, so I've been contemplating on how I'm going to fix this. So I think what I'm going to end up doing, take these ears and cut them off flush on both sides, make a nice good solid surface. I'm going to take this hitch bushing, I don't know, the top part of the hitch, whatever you want to call it, cut these ears off, grind it flush, make it all nice and pretty, and give a nice surface for welding. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the lower pin bushing. I'm going to take and cut these ears back and put a pin through everything, make sure it's all nice and lined up, then we'll weld it in place. Alright, first things first, gotta put my safety glasses on, gotta put my hand protection on. Alright, let's see if we get this torch fired up. Make sure I put the fires out. Alright, that looks pretty good and uniform, both sides. Now it's just a matter of cleaning it up with a grinder. This drawbar is also tweaked, it's not perfectly vertical. So I'm going to take the time and try to straighten these ears up and make everything parallel so the draw pin will drop in nice and easy. But I'm not quite sure on how I'm going to do this. Well, let's see how this is going to fit. It's a little on the warm side yet. We're gonna have to keep this bushing to the bottom of this plate because the drawbar is gonna stick through, and we don't want the bottom of the plate to bind on the drawbar as well. So when I weld this on, I'm gonna make sure that the bottom of this bushing is flush with the bottom of this plate, and then this access up here, I can always trim that off later on to give myself some room for the pin, but I think that's gonna be all right. I kind of like how that's setting. Gives me some good surface area to weld to. Alright, now for the same treatment on the bottom bushing. Alright, let's see how this is going to work. Right about here is where the bottom one's going to go. Somewhere in there. And then the top one is going to go right in here somewhere. How am I going to keep these all lined up though? I have an idea. Alright, start with the bottom one. Kind of set that where we want it. Try to anyways. And the top one, kind of get that in position. And we'll take a pair of vice grips and get them set. Probably should have done this before I got it in place, but let's try this again. We can always fine tune it. I guess it looks good. Then, all we got to do is set the top of the vice grip on the bottom of that bracket, and that should set our height for both the bottom bushing and the top bushing. I like it. Alright, so I think I have this hitch assembly fitted the way I want it. Got the bushing set up the way I want it. So what my game plan is, I got to go to my neighbor's to use his welder. I burned up my welder, a stick welder, I don't know, 2 years ago, and I haven't replaced it. And he's got a nice little 220 MIG. So I got to go over there to use his welder. I don't want to drag the whole baler over there. So my plan is to unbolt this hitch assembly off the tongue. But these are two separate pieces now that this bushings, the hitch bushings, are removed from it. So how am I going to keep this geometry the same? This piece of wood happens to measure 3.5 inches across. So what I'm going to do is drill 2 holes that's going to mate up with these holes. I'm going to bolt these plates to this block of wood, take it over there, weld up my bushings on the ends of these plates, and bring it back, and hopefully it'll fit. So the first thing I want to do is get my first bracket set kind of where I want it, and mark the center of my holes. Alright, let's see if I can remember how this orientation went. I think something like that. Hopefully this bolt's long enough. Ooh, gonna be close. that bolt's not quite long enough. But let's tighten it up and see what happens. Just for good measure, let's check this again. I think I can be happy with this. Alright, I kind of like the looks of this, so I'm going to take this to my neighbors, go get it welded up, and I'll see you back in a few minutes. Alright, let's make sure this is going to fit the New Holland. Oh yeah, lots of room between the drawbar and the bottom pin boss. Everything fits. Almost like I knew what I was doing. And before we take it off the piece of wood, this will make an excellent holder. Let's see if it fits the baler. All right. Look at that. I think that looks pretty good if you ask me. Even better when the draw pin fits down in there nice. Well, I don't have any red, so it's going to get what I got, which is a little bit of black. Something's better than nothing, I guess. This 268 baler has been a great baler for me over the years. They're a good vintage baler. This was manufactured somewhere in the mid to late 60s. They don't require a lot of horsepower to run. A 25-30 horse tractor will run these all day long. The thing with a baler is it's not so much the horsepower being put to the baler, it's the weight in front of it to keep the weight behind it under control. If you get out in a flatter area, you can get away with a smaller frame, lower horsepower tractor to run these. But around here on some of these hills, I like to use the Farmall 460. Sometimes even the New Holland is okay, but I like the 460 because it's a heavy tractor and you don't feel it so much in the seat like you do like the New Holland on them side hills. When I bought this baler, it didn't come with this pan chute on it. It had a number 70 thrower that actually came on a pallet. It wasn't even on the baler. I had my local machine shop custom bend these pieces of flat steel, rolled these edges, and I assembled this chute system. Our wagons are all flat rack wagons. They have no sides on them, so we hand bomb everything onto wagons. A little bit more manual labor, but it works for us. When we first got this baler, it did all our baling, first and second cutting. We'd make anywhere between 15 to 2,000 square bales a year. Nowadays, it's been relegated to second cutting. We make probably 500 to 600 bales, and that's about the only time it comes out of the barn anymore. We got to put the 2 balls of twine in her, and hopefully I got them set down in here right. Every year I take the twine out of it. I clean the bale chamber out because the hay sitting in there all winter long will rust out the bale chamber. So I got to put the twine back in it and re-thread it, and I can't find the end of the twine. Right here. These are a couple bales left over from last year. Bales, balls, whatever you want to call it. First thing I had to do is run it through this tab, and then it corresponds with this far spring-loaded tab, and there's a hole right here that you got to run the twine down through. So we'll get it going the right way. Pull some slack out. Make sure it doesn't get bunched up in the process. Then from that spring-loaded bracket, it's got to come over here through this insulator that's mounted to this needle arm. And then from there, it's a maze. Then the twine has to come up through this insulator. And it really doesn't matter which side goes where. So I'm just going to start with this one that's closest first. Once it's fed through the insulator on the back side of this steel plate, you got to feed it through the needle. And the needle is what sends the twine up through the bale, and then the twine holder is what catches the twine as the needle passes up by it, and then the needle comes back and resets. Then from there, we pull this down through and we tie it back to the needle arm, and this is how you thread the baler for the first time. After it trips once and then the twine holder catches this, there'll be a little bit of a tail left on here. You can come back through and cut it off, and I always push it over so it's right nice and tight to the needle arm, or the needle itself, where the needle mounts to the swinging arm. And just pass it down like we did before. Now when the lid closes, this row of tabs lines up with this outer hole in this bracket where it passes through the ball housing, ball, whatever you call this. This is the only place that the two sets of twine run together, and this insulator that's mounted to the needle arm. After that, pull some slack through, pass it up through the insulator, feed it through the needle, and then tie it off to the outside of the needle and the needle arm. There, that'll work. Alright, and I'll just pull any slack back through here just to make sure from this holder on downward is all tight. This is a spring-loaded clamp, so that way it sets the right amount of tension. You don't want any slack in any of this. Then if there was, it would get all bound up and stuff. Now the only other thing that you would normally do, and I'm not going to do it today because I'm not hooking the baler up, the other thing you would do is trip the trip arm, get the knotters to go through one revolution of tying, and what that does is it brings the needles up and it brings the twine into the twine holder, into these discs. You can see the twine from last year still there where I cut it, and what that'll do is that brings the twine up into the bale chamber, so as you start to make your first bale, the twine is on the right side, and basically you're off starting to bale. Now the other thing that'll have to happen once you start making a bale, you'll have to adjust your bale tension. On this baler, it's all manual, and I have measurements written on the inside of the lid. That's what those were for the length of studs sticking out of here. Kind of gets me in the ballpark of what it should be for first versus second cutting. It's not an exact science. All the hay crop's different, and if you're doing straw, it's different yet. So after you start getting the bale made, then you come back here, get your bale tension set, and it's always a fine-tuning process. The first few bales are going to look like garbage. It's just the way it is. It's going to take a few to get the kinks worked out of everything, get some stuff shined up. I'm not a big believer in spraying anything on, the knotter stack. It's best if you just leave it dry. The little bit of surface rust you're going to get from it setting over the year a couple times through its paces, it's going to work its way off and you'll be off and running. Grease, grease, grease. I can't stress that enough. There's a lot of moving parts on these knotter systems, so I greased it before I put it away. I always do that, so I'm not going to grease it right now. That's about it. I really can't think of anything else we got to do when it comes to getting this baler ready. We just got to hook it to a tractor and get some hay cut, and we can put it through its paces. We'll just have to wait and see if Mother Nature's going to cooperate with us or not. Before I end the video, I wanted to let you guys know that we created an Instagram account. Go check us out at Cobb Hill Farms on Instagram. It's basically going to be an upload of farm content, antique tractor stuff, you know, same stuff that we do on the farm. It's just going to be more of an impromptu thing, so you never know when or what might show up on our Instagram. But check us out. We greatly appreciate it. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you like our channel, as always, we ask you to subscribe. I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time.